y'all, Mac here. It's been a bit. So I got my account back. Fingers crossed that stays that way. I've been playing the League Star, and I started a Huntress, playing Lightning Spear Huntress, going Amazon. And I have to say, this build has definitely exceeded my expectations. I thought it'd be a lot worse scaling, but I was getting into red maps with virtually no resistances and just like kind of making my way through all the way up until like T13s where I really got hard capped. But the build has since transitioned with some upgrades to T15s and 14s with no real issue. And also, yeah, so anyways, yeah, you don't actually need Astrometrics for this build, obviously. I don't even think it's a good option right now. It just covers a lot of like stats, so you get a lot of benefit from it. It gives me a lot of accuracy, but even without Astromentis, if you can get like a +2, it might just straight up be more damage than Astromentis, as crazy as that is to say. That being said, I plan to transition this to a stat stacker later on and see how Huntress does in that regard, but I'll get into that a little bit later, maybe with like the full guide video on this build. I also want to preface this by saying that this build was originally cooked up by Lazy Exile. I'm going to put a link to their guide as well as their channel in the description of this video, and go check them out, please. It is not my original build whatsoever. I did not have the time to cook up anything original, so I just kind of slapped together parts from their build and basically like used their guide to level through Axe, and that made it a lot easier. So if you're planning on leveling this build from scratch, definitely use that build guide. It is monumentally helpful. Okay, so how does this build work? We're clearing with point-and-click projectile Lightning Spear, and yeah, that's it. There's a support gem called Volt, right? So how Volt works is you build up charges by walking around, and you spend charges, all of your charges at once, on your next attack. This next attack, thanks to Lightning Spear chaining like crazy on its own, or like just spreading a lot like crazy with its mini bolt projectiles, it chains 3 times at 30 stacks, as well as doing 15% more damage added as lightning. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. It clears screens, no exaggeration, and it's able to do that on T14s with a relatively decent spear. But I was able to do that on T11s with like a really crappy spear. So your weapon kind of makes your attack build. That's kind of the golden rule of playing any attack in PoE, and it's no different here. I go for a lot of flat fizz. There's a lot of argument currently about whether or not penetrate's actually a good node. And so how this works is it's applying the added physical damage that you gain from accuracy to your attack and not your weapon. Meaning that if you have like 400 added or 400 flat fizz DPS on your spear, right? And you have to give up 200 of that to get a 500 accuracy roll. So that 500 accuracy roll gets cut by 4, and that isn't even added to the weapon, so it's not scaled by the increased percentages. It's just added straight to your attack. So take that for what you will. I personally think for the time being, until we get borderline near tier items, that just a high flat fizz damage spear is going to be better for this setup. But you can also opt for accuracy if that does end up being cheaper, and it can carry you, especially if you have 4 ascendancies. I don't have all 4 notables yet. I'm planning on doing that soon, and I would probably path towards here. Stalking Panther is probably going to be given up in place of Predatory Instinct if I feel that I just want to go pure Glass Cannon. But the reason why I'm going Stalking Panther is because of how we're actually scaling these charges. So how does Amazon actually get way more damage? Well, we get it through infusion. How do we get infusion? We have to consume charges. That's power, frenzy, or endurance charges. Okay, how do we get these charges? We use Red Flare Conduits, which gives us a 20% chance to gain a power charge on hit. And we lose all our power charges when we reach max, but that's not a problem because when we hit something and we get the power charges, we'll just spend them right away through the bolts and on our next Lightning Spear usage. Now, there is a downside to this body armor. It says it shocks you when you reach maximum power charges. Okay, there's an item to deal with this that literally just says cannot be shocked. Go figure. So this belt, I think both this and the body armor have shot up in price. Make sure you're using like the trade filtering by Exalted Orbs to make sure there's not any lower price, which there probably will be. And yeah, we're also using Lycosidae. So our accuracy rating is currently scaling our crit, right? Any excess accuracy is going to our critical hit chance as additional modifier. And so if we look over here, we're gaining 81 to 97% additional main hand critical chance from the hit chance. If we take this off, the low end goes down by just under 30%, which is massive. So I think Lycosidae is a really worthwhile unique. And again, when I got it, it was like 2-3x, not there anymore. So yeah, I still think it's worth getting, and it definitely helps out with the damage more than anything else. Beyond that, if you're running Stalking Panther, you definitely want high evasion rating on these, because you're going to be scaling most of your defensive layer through these. Your defensive layer is going to be, okay evasion. This is passable. Probably not, but it's passable for right now. And I take Wind Dancer. Pin support's really nice, also just for generating more charges, as well as a sort of a defensive layer. You pin the enemy whenever they get hit by one of your Wind Dancer Gale Forces, which, is there for when you get hit. So hopefully it stops them from hitting you too many times. Besides that, the build uses Thunder Sleep, and I put Martial Tempo and Cadence on this, and Untouchable for more evasion rating. So that's about it. I think that it's much better just to have attack speed on this. This isn't really going to do that much damage. It's really just there for travel. Hail to Thunder is really nice for clearing. We want Magnified Effect, Innervate, and Lightning Infusion just because it only does lightning. And we just want to buff this to really just clear. Our single target's actually coming from Stormlance and Explosive Spear. So how this works is Stormlance needs to be detonated either by Thunder Sleep, like so, or it can be detonated by Explosive Spears. And Explosive Spears you can throw down 2 at base, and I take Overabundance, Expedite, and Fire Exposure. Stormlance, you want to take Lightning Pen. Electrocute is really important, and Primal Armament just for some more additional damage. Now, for our actual infused weapon, we're taking Bullseye, Embitter, Long Shot, and Concentrated Effect, really just damage modifiers to scale its damage. And we're getting more accuracy and charges through Combat Frenzy. And yeah, the gems for this build are all included in the guide. I swapped out a couple things because I didn't feel like they were all that necessary, or that I wanted a different playstyle. But beyond that, yeah, it's nothing too different. Actual skill tree, you're padding pretty much the same way you level. I'll take some elemental nodes up here for more damage early on in the axe, because this build scaling isn't great early. But you can drop those once you get to this point in the game. These spear nodes are really powerful. There's some dex and attack speed scaling nodes here, and then obviously path to whatever crit you can. I also saw that the guide went down here to get Avatar and Force of Nature. I think I'm going to come down here, but I don't know if that's actually worth doing before getting crit, especially if you're starving for crit. I think padding up here might actually be worth it. And these nodes are actually pretty good here too. And since we're playing Shock Magnitude as well, I think that taking Endless Circuit is pretty solid. But again, do what you will, do what you need. If you need defensive nodes along the way, take those. Just remember, you always have the option of respecking, right? So, stat-wise on rings, you just want accuracy, life, and reses. I'm filling most of my reses with the tertiary armors and the rings. And these two both have lightning res, so you can get your lightning res from this. And I think that's about it, honestly. This build is probably going to get turned into a stat stacker since I actually lucked out like crazy. But yeah, obviously for the footage, the clear it feels really nice to play, and I highly encourage anybody who's not enjoying the other Huntress builds, or that wants to just reroll and play something, one of the new Ascendancies, to give this build a try. Unfortunately, I will say this: the gear will probably get more expensive the more people that play this, because the stats you're looking for are relatively the same across the board, and the flexibility is relatively low. So expect price surges and more people reroll. But nevertheless, till next time, ciao.